Hey, folks, welcome to the Game Traction Podcast, the official podcast of tire business. I have a great guest today, Adrian Rodriguez with Commercial Tire, Vice President of Marketing and Retail Sales. Commercial Tire has 45 locations in Idaho, Washington, Oregon, and Utah. Great company. Can't wait for this interview. But before we begin, let me read you this sponsorship. This episode is brought to you by Tread Partners. Tread Partners is the leading digital marketing agency that specializes in digital marketing for multi-location tire and auto repair shops. Tread Partners works with clients that have hundreds of locations down to 5 locations. Let Tread Partners take a look under your digital marketing hood today. To learn more or to contact them, visit treadpartners.com. My past guest shout out today is for Dan Kahn. He's the founder and CEO of Kahn Media in Los Angeles. Man, we had a great interview. Kahn Media is actually the media company for SEMA. So it's a very cool interview. I had a lot of fun talking to Dan, and we talked about his book, which was great. But you can listen to the podcast at gaintractionpodcast.com. Welcome to the Gain Traction Podcast, the official podcast for tire business. I am Mike Edge, your host, and I have the privilege of interviewing the tire dealers, shop owners, counter sales reps, technicians, industry executives, and other thought leaders of our industry. So let's get started. Adrian Rodriguez, welcome to the Gain Traction Podcast.
Thanks a lot. Happy to be here.
Yeah, I'm happy to have you here. So, let's just talk about in the beginning. Where'd you start in life and how did you get to tires?
Well, I won't go all the way back, but let's go back to undergraduate school. And
Perfect.
I'll be honest with you, I was kind of a little lost and looking for something to do, and internships were kind of a thing at the time. And so, honestly, I saw an email come through saying free pizza if you listen to this internship talk.
You're kidding.
No, so that was it. I'm in college and I'm hungry, right? So it's this company called John Deere, and I'm not familiar with John Deere much. Besides that, I see their hats and sometimes their tractors. So long story short, I go and get me some free pizza, and I end up with a internship. Did that 3 years in a row in undergrad. Went on full time with John Deere and was in their marketing department, all different roles and different places around the country for about 10 years. So that's kind of what cut my teeth on marketing and retail sales and those sorts of things. Those are the free pizza and John Deere.
I love your story, but I mean, that's a great, respectable company to start with, man.
Yeah, no, in fact, there's a lot of it. So you kind of asked, how did I get into tires? I mean, there's a lot of similarities between the two industries that I've found really kind of translate well. And so in between my time at John Deere, I took some time off, I'll be honest, had some fun, traveled the world for a couple years, came back and kind of needed something more full time, and was introduced to the founder and the president of Commercial Tire here in Boise, Idaho area. And, kind of just talked him into giving me a job. And, it translated really well. I remember one of the first days when I was talking to one of my coworkers, he said, "We operate in places you'll never even know about. These tiny little cities in Idaho and Washington and whatnot." And said, "Oh, I've been there. There's a John Deere dealership there. I called on that one." So it was a great translation of my skill set and kind of the experiences that I had. So that brought me to tires, going on now 7 years.
That's fantastic. I love that story. So, one of the things that I wanted to talk to you guys about, that you guys are an employee-owned company, which is phenomenal. I mean, they're rare, and then B, they're really rare in our industry. So, was that in place when you got there, or did that get in place after you got there?
So probably about a year and a half in, Mike, is when we became employee owned. And we went, a lot of employee owned companies typically kind of are kind of a longer term cycle of transition. So typically it'll go 20% and 25%. And then over the years, the employees will buy them out. Well, fortunate for us, in late 2019, we converted to 100% employee owned. And so that is not only unique to go 100% right out of the gate, but also pretty unique in our industry. Like you said, off the top of my head, I can think of maybe only a handful of employee owned tire retailers like us.
Yeah.
So it's really been a great thing, a really big learning curve for all of us, because it adds a lot of different layers. You're not only concerned about profitability as a senior leader, and longevity and strategy and those sorts of things, but everyone is a shareholder now. And so you bring on a board of directors and things like that. So it changes the way you think about the business a little bit.
I bet. I mean, I would think that it gives you so much of a feel of ownership that, I mean, like even walking out to the parking lots, make you conscious of just what looks good or bad, or you probably have more opinion about something, I guess, in the I care vibe. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, in fact, that's one of the huge benefits of employee-owned companies is they tend to grow faster and excel a little bit faster because if you truly create that culture ownership, then you've got everyone from the brand new tire tech thinking, how can I make this process a little bit more efficient? How can I save, like maybe it's even just tire chalk. How can I save a little bit here and there? And you get that kind of culture all the way up to the president of the company and the senior leadership. What kind of impact does that make? I always talk about, we try to make it relatable to our employee owners. And I say, well, if you think about just a couple things is one, how can we all save time every day? That's a huge difference, whether you're in accounting, whether you're a tire tech, whether you're in marketing. If we all saved a couple minutes, 15 minutes a day, times hundreds and hundreds of employees, times 365 days, that's real money. That's real efficiency. So things like that, I think, really create an advantage. And it's this new culture of ownership. So it's really been kind of a great thing for us.
I didn't think of it in the math way that you just put it. That's a really cool way of doing it because I mean, if you're thinking about saving time and you've got hundreds of employees and everybody thinks they can shave a minute here or there, man, that adds up. That gets real, that you create some massive efficiencies over time.
Well, not only that, I think we like to think about the ideation perspective, right? Is like, especially as a senior leadership team, we're not on the front lines every day. A lot of us, not myself personally, but started on those front lines, but that was years ago. So if someone's doing that job today, has this idea that we can save time, drive profitability across the company, and they elevate that because they have that feeling of ownership, think of how much more rapidly we can improve as a company with that kind of culture.
Oh man, that's unbelievable. Well, it makes me think of, and I'm just gonna go ahead and pull this out, but you got a mantra that you kind of live by. It's you showed it, it sits on your desk. If you don't mind, let's
Yeah,
talk. Let's.
and I can show it to you. So you asked me what kind of mantra I live by and what's something simple, and I was like, I got this sign on my desk I had created, and so here's what it says. Like it says, "Do epic shit." So no matter whether it's marketing, leading, acting like an owner, the thing I like to live by personally is just that phrase itself. You know
Yeah, but it
that
really fits well with the culture you just described. Like you're not, there's no boundaries to doing epic shit. I mean, you're just like, what can I do today to maximize not just for myself, but for the company at large? And man, it's such a winning attitude.
But and you think, and I think as you think about that phrase, and I think about how that translates to, before we call it teammates. I think that's the culture every one of us is trying to make in business. Is, oh, we're all teammates, we're not employees. Well, now we're employee owners together. So how do we do epic shit together as employee owners to raise all the tides, you know, and really drive it's really a wealth building tool at the end of the day. So each one of our employee owners, it's a way for them to kind of gain wealth in a way they wouldn't have the opportunity otherwise, in addition.
Yeah, and I think it's got to build that culture that you look at everybody in the company has, I mean, they're all owners, right? So everybody has their part to play and every part's important. I mean, it's just kind of like the I don't know, it's somewhere in scripture or whatever it says, the eye is, it can't be an ear, and the or one appendage can't be the other, but you need all of them. You don't want to miss any of them. I mean, you know what I'm saying? It's like, so you need every part of the body, and it's kind of like you're one body working in one place doing one go.
Absolutely. And that's what we're trying to really kind of cultivate here with that employee ownership message, Mike. So
I love it. So go back a little bit. You said 2019, man. That's a big transition, and then you guys hit COVID, or we all did. But I mean,
yeah, yeah. So
how was that?
well, as you can imagine, COVID was fun for all of us. So not only had we just kind of transitioned, trying to figure out this new way of operating and trying to build culture, and how do we not only communicate employee ownership to the market, because it's also, I think, a benefit, especially in the Pacific Northwest, that people want to do business with other people who live there. They want to know that their money is going to a good place and going back into their communities. Um, and then, so we were dealing with all that, and how do we figure this thing out, and board members and these kinds of things. And then COVID hits. Um, and I'll tell you what, you easily forget. At least I did, we were having daily meetings, Mike, the senior team, on what do we do? What triggers do we need to pull? What do we need to prepare for? Um, and then, by the way, we're all employee owners. So we got to keep this thing going too, for every one of us employees. So it was a challenge, but we made it through, and like hopefully most did, and I think we came out better for it at the other side.
Oh, I definitely think it helped companies come together. I mean, look, it busted a lot of companies, and the heartbreaker for me is it busted a lot of good restaurants. I mean, that just that was the nature of it, unfortunately. But if you were able to survive, I think people that made it through as a team really came out stronger because of it. It's like adversity always. I mean, it can go two ways, right? But if you come out together on the other side and you're victorious, then it's kind of like you just, hey man, we went through all of that together, and it's like it builds that camaraderie even more, you know.
Yes.
It's kind of like being a foxhole, I'd say, together. I mean, not that's maybe extreme or whatever, but men that go to battle, they have a natural bond because they went through everything together. So that's awesome. So the building community thing, I think that's huge anyway. I think that's the nature of our industry as a whole, but I would say that you guys are probably a little bit on steroids in regards to the focus of that, just because it is employee owned. So, you do take a little bit more ownership individually for every little league team or high school sport that you're involved in, or sign that you put on the wall out in left field or center field or whatever.
Yeah, and I think from a community aspect, Mike, it's interesting. So when you look at our footprint, and we talked a little bit about this before we started recording today, but we operate in a lot of rural communities,
Yeah.
and so knowing your neighbors is something that's just a reality,
Yeah.
right? And so with employee ownership, we've got locations in these small communities where the profitability of the company is going right back to those people who live in those communities, rural or not. And so not only have we been involved in communities across the board since 1968, when our founders started the company, but now it's kind of like you said, it's kind of accelerated a little bit. We're building wealth within those communities through our employee owners. So I think instead of it going back to someone in Wall Street, or just one person's pocket, I think that really kind of creates a different um, perspective, and I think it really helps us build that community. Um, because at the end of the day, I mean, I'll go to the grocery store and see fellow employee owners, and I'll see the customers and things like that. And especially in the rural communities, it's accelerated even more.
Tell me a little bit about, I'm curious, so you guys are what's I know you call yourself commercial tire, but I know you also do some passenger light truck, but as a percentage, commercial, what is 80, 90%?
Yeah, so I'd say commercial, when you look at business to business, that is the lion's share of what we do. That's anything from huge mines down to like HVAC, landscape companies. So all that.
That's what I was going to ask you. I was curious. So you're really
Yes.
you're pretty extreme then.
Yeah,
And yeah,
that's kind of that commercial B2B part that we have, but then we do have significant amount of consumer. And so that would be what a lot of people think of is pretty typical, is your passenger light truck, um, someone needing a set of new tires, got a flat. We do mechanical things like that. So that is a good portion of our business, but a lot of it is, we do everything down for, ATV tires all the way up to these huge tires that ship direct, to the mines.
that's awesome. And I'd say you're kind of almost bound to be broad, because if you're in that many rural communities, they kind of look at you as the go-to guys for everything, don't they? I mean, like if you're dealing with, let's say, for instance, managers or folks that are running mines and things like that, well, they're still coming to you for their wives' car, I'm sure.
Well, and it's funny you say that because a couple years ago, I asked our founder, Bob, I said, well, why do we even sell passenger light truck? We're named commercial tire. That's a significant part of our business. And he said, well, years ago, farming, was one of our big and still is one of our big areas of focus. He said, well, then the farmer was coming to me and he said, well, what about my wife's Cadillac? I don't want to do, I like you. We got a good partnership. I trust you. I want you to put the tires on her car too. So he said, all right, well, and you know how it goes when you're building a business. It's like, absolutely. You just say
Yeah.
yes. And you should.
Yeah. No, it's funny. I've talked to multiple commercial tire dealers or ag folks that are primarily ag, and one of them I know relatively well. They do a lot in ag. I mean, it's a pretty cool operation, but it's funny. They actually have what is considered to be a very successful, consumer side, and they really don't want to be there, but they're there because all of their customers rely on them. And their consumer side, out of just they have three shops, but the one shop I'm thinking of, it's so big, yet it pales it's big in comparison to most people dealing in consumer tires, across the country. But it's just a small part of their ag business, in regards to total revenue. But it's just like, for them, it's just necessary. But to somebody else, it would be a great business, I mean, like on the consumer side, if you were just doing one store and you had, but yeah, they were just like, hey, it's foregone conclusion. We're not getting out of it. We got to have it. I mean, because everybody relies on us and everybody brings their spouse's cars or their own. I mean, their trucks, all that personal stuff.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. So we're trying to service the customer in any way that we can. That's for sure.
um, tell me, so you're down with HVAC companies, plumbing companies. You're a marketing guy. I've always been curious, how do you market to those folks?
So for us, really, it's more about, I would say, materials that enable those salespeople. So we have a big outside sales force. And
Okay.
so they go directly to these companies in our areas. And so, really, from a marketing aspect, what we do is then provide all the materials that can help explain the value that commercial tire brings in a professional way. So, whether that be, we just made these really cool video cards that show videos of all the things that we do as commercial tire, and those are leave behinds. That could be brochures. It could be, a lot of different things that we've done in the past from a marketing perspective.
Now, do you dial that into like a vertical? Like, I mean, is the collateral that you create, is that strictly for a specific vertical, and you do it each way that way? Does that make sense?
Yes and no. So
Okay.
uh, we do. So we do it by each one of those segments.
Okay.
So we call kind of that HVAC landscape. That's kind of what we call fleet partners.
Okay.
And then, of course, we've got, OTR, and we've got ag, and then we've got traditional trucking. Um, and so we've got materials for each, but then we also have, because you think of these larger companies and they may need all of those things.
Yeah.
Right. So we've got materials that talk about just the general value that commercial tire brings. So from a marketing perspective, that's kind of really how we've approached the market. And then the consumer side is a whole different animal, as you can imagine. We're talking, streaming video and social media and all those different things. So
Oh yeah. Oh
it's
yeah.
into a little bit different spot.
I'm curious. So on the consumer side, you brought up that when you talked to Bob that one time about why you do it and everything. Okay, is it a challenge to be in the consumer side with the name commercial in your business?
Of course you'd ask that. Absolutely. It
Yeah.
is. So a lot of that is kind of, we've been around since 1968 as a commercial tire.
Yeah.
So I think for the most part, we're a pretty well-known entity and company. Where we see challenges is, and I was just looking, actually, they just came out with a new survey here in the Treasure Valley, which includes Boise. In the last 5 years has grown 14%
Okay.
population. And that's pretty dramatic for a city. And so where we have challenges kind of from a marketing perspective is, how do we tell new people?
Yeah.
People who've been around their whole lives, they know commercial tire, they know what we do and the value we add. But if you just move from a different state, well, that's a challenge we have to overcome. So a lot of that's awareness. We've done some pretty playful things in our advertising, but it's something we're always working at.
That's cool. I was just curious. Going back to you personally, because you got some pretty cool hobbies. What do you like to do?
Well,
Because you're extremist, I think.
I don't know if well, me. I'm pretty focused on what it is I do. So in the winter, you can find me on the ski mountain. I ski over 50 days a year. So that's pretty much where you can find me while the lifts are running then. And then in the summer, I downhill mountain bike. So typically when the lifts start back up, I throw the mountain bike on those lifts and ride back down the same mountain. So
Okay, it's the same mountain.
same mountain.
Oh my gosh, dude, you are crazy. How fast can you get up going down on a bike? I mean, that's insane to me.
Oh, shoot. I mean, you're 40 plus miles an hour and skis, same thing.
Yeah, but I always feel like at least with skis, you got a little bit of a cushion if you're going to fall, you're going to hit snow or go into some embankment or whatever. I mean, when you're just on that dirt, dude, do you just wrap up? Do you have elbow pads and everything else?
Padding, full face helmets, all the whole thing.
Oh my gosh. So have
Oh,
you,
yeah.
so have you, yeah. So have you broken anything ever?
A few too many times. In fact, it's kind of a funny story. My start at Commercial Tire. So I went kind of through an interview process, talked to the founder, talked to the president of the company and HR and a couple other folks. And so, this was over a couple weeks. And finally we said, okay, I think it's a good fit. And here's going to be your starting day. So it was a Monday. And lo and behold, I broke my collarbone on a Saturday riding my bike before starting work. I show up in a sling and they say, well, wait, this is not what we bought. We bought a functioning person. You're one less arm. And of course, my first thing I was going to do was go and work in the stores,
Oh God.
yeah, all about that. So you can imagine how well you can do all the things at a tire store with one arm. So that's how I started my tire industry careers.
Oh, that's brutal. What a start. And then they're looking at you like, what the heck? We're training you, dude. We need you. Sorry, I'm wounded. I can't lift tires today.
Yeah, well, luckily they kept me around, Mike. So I guess
I was about to say you did something right. That's awesome. I'm curious to know a little bit more about Bob. Bob's the founder, right?
yes, Bob Schwenkfelder.
Okay, so tell us a little bit about Bob. I think it's always important to go back to the beginning.
Yeah, so Bob started. I think he was 25 when he started the company in 1968.
That's cool.
He started with a partner. They were selling Firestone, and in of course Idaho, Washington, Oregon, Utah, where we operate, is a lot of ag, so that was a big focus for them. And then as he grew the business, in fact, he was one of the initial people who kind of brought on Bridgestone. If you recall, Bridgestone, is a Japanese company,
Yeah.
and really popular in the U.S. At one point. And so we've been a Bridgestone Firestone affiliate, strong affiliate for many, many years. And throughout that, Bob kind of grew organically, and where the demand was needed, we put a store in, and we've kind of grown it from there. And when they brought me on here about 7 years ago, we were probably around 40 stores or something like that, and we've continued to grow. As you can imagine, boy, the M&A that's happened in our industry in the last 10 years
Oh
is
yeah.
just crazy. So that's same thing we're doing is how do we
Y'all don't get any phone calls though, right? I'm just kidding.
they don't come to me, let's just say that.
Well, so did I have the number right? Is it 45?
It's actual storefronts, or that's accurate. We've also got 3 retread locations.
Okay.
Um, and then we've got operations with powder coating, and some different things. So we've got warehouses. So when you look at brick and mortar, it's a little over 50.
Okay. Yeah, that's cool. You guys are impressive, man. I'm glad that you said yes to this interview. I really appreciate you being on.
Well, thank you. No, it's always exciting. I think tires is not as exciting as some people, or I'm sorry, tires is more exciting than I thought it would be. And I
Yeah.
think from the outside looking in, it's kind of one of those things that, well, it's kind of a fun game, honestly.
It really is. And you know what I love about it is it affects all of us. I don't care what industry you're in or what you do, or because personally you need tires, right? I mean, but it's a cool business, but as big as the industry is, it's one of the smallest big industries I think that exists out there. Because I feel like that old cliche, like you're 7 degrees away or 6 degrees away from Kevin Bacon or whatever. I think in this case, in this industry, you're really probably only 2 degrees away. You know somebody that knows somebody. I mean, it's a pretty tight circle, and it's pretty cool. And there's a great people in the industry as a whole.
Absolutely. And, you talked a little bit about, COVID and those sorts of things, and then community. And one of the things that we talked about as a senior team, and it kind of became clear to us, is how important tires are.
Yeah.
So you have all these businesses that shut down, but we are part of the reason things get to the grocery stores. You look at emergency services. What are they rolling on? What do planes land on? I mean, tires really help our communities and our society move. And it's not a real easy or sexy business. Dirty, it's tough, it's hot, and but really it's so important. And so that was something we kind of realized is this is, this we're doing something that's so valuable to the way that we live and the way that people get around that, it's something to take pride in.
I agree, and I'm glad you said it that way. I think that's good, and I think all our listeners are primarily dealers or people that work in tire dealer shops and auto repair shops, and I think that's a great way of putting it. We should take more pride in the fact that we touch everybody, and it's an extremely important product.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, Adrian, I can't say enough in gratitude for you being on the podcast. I've enjoyed having you.
Absolutely, Mike. I certainly appreciate you asking me to be on.
Absolutely. So to all our listeners out there, thanks for being part of the podcast. We love you guys, and stay in touch. You can always reach me at mike@treadpartners.com. Till next time, we'll see you on Gain Traction. To all our listeners, thank you for being part of the Gain Traction podcast. We are grateful for you. If you'd like to find more podcasts like this, please visit gaintractionpodcast.com. If you'd like to make a guest recommendation, please email me at mike@treadpartners.com. This episode has been powered by Tread Partners, the leader in digital marketing for multi-location tire and auto repair shops. To learn more about Tread Partners, visit treadpartners.com.